Welcome to our training today. It's going to be fun as always. My name is Isaac, and I'm leading you through this session. And this being our third session in this program, Developing the Leader Within You, is exciting because today we are going to talk about the foundation of leadership, which is character. So let's get started. Now, I hope you being a part of the Dynamo Leaders Academy, you've had a chance to, and especially if you're new, you've had a chance to check out our other programs inside the portal. They are really cool programs and we keep on adding them in there. They are recorded. You can go through them at your own pace. We have the workbooks, we have the worksheets. Some of them have PowerPoint slides, so check them out. So let's talk about the foundation of leadership. And again, this is lesson number 3 of the 10 lessons we have in this program, Developing the Leader Within You. Every time I think about character, the first thing that comes to my mind is the question, who am I? What do I represent? What makes me tick? And tied to that is, what kind of an image do I want to project genuinely? What kind of reputation do I want to build? And what's my reputation right now? And what role does character play? What role does your character play into building your reputation and your image? And the answer is, it plays a big role in building your reputation and your image. So let's talk about foundation of leadership. And it's interesting that, again, character has been referred to be the foundation of leadership. Again, from a basic perspective, leadership is the aspect of directing people, showing them where to go, casting that vision, and influencing them to do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it, and most importantly, being able to do it willingly. So character as a foundation of leadership. I'm going to share my screen so we can go through a few things together. So give me a second. There we go. Sometimes it takes forever for the screen to come up. All right. The foundation of leadership is character. I don't know why this little box is showing up there. So there's an assessment here, and we're not going to go through all these questions. And the question is, I a healthy leader? So review the list below. Where are you doing well, and where do you need to give added attention? So I'm just going to go through a few of these. Number 1, do I feel superior to those who work for me? And I like to say, for those who work with me. Yeah, the for and with gets used interchangeably, but I prefer to have people work with me instead for me. And then number 2, do I demonstrate an imbalance between work and other areas of life? Again, it's all about assessing yourself to see how healthy you are as a leader. One of the things that caught my attention, in this case, the assessment questions was, do I put, and this one down here, do I put my own success ahead of the success of others? Do I put my own success ahead of the success of others? Now, I believe all of us are working towards going somewhere so we can succeed in our careers, in our lives, in our relationships, in our spiritual lives. And you can't help it but think about yourself, because it's your goals, it's your dreams, and it's your own projects that you're working on. So most likely, most of the times you're thinking about yourself. And it's possible, and this is a realization that I got as I was going through this program, was that it's possible for you to not think about others' success, to focus on your own success, and to an extent to put your own success ahead of other people's success. So in this case, your own team, yes, you come first, and that's a real thing. As a leader, you need to take care of yourself so you can have the ability and the capability to take care of other people. But if you can make it an intentional attempt to think about your team members, and especially providing resources for them, training them, coaching them, mentoring them, again, that's going to put you in a very good spot, and you're going to become a healthier leader. Let's go to the next page, and I hope you are following up with your workbook that you should have downloaded. The character value statements. We have 3 value statements that we're going to go through, and again, in depth. on each one of these. And the question is, what areas of your character do you need to develop? What areas of your character do you need to develop? So character value statement number one is good character builds strong trust. If you've been a leader for a while, most likely you're aware of a law. Actually, it's a law of leadership, and it's called the law of solid ground. And it says that trust is the foundation of leadership. So good character builds strong trust. And since trust is the foundation of leadership, then it means whenever you build your character, you are strengthening your foundation. And in this case, you being the leader that can be relied upon, a leader that can be counted upon, a leader that's trusted by their team, a leader who delivers results, a leader who inspires others, a leader who trains others and develops them. So good character builds strong trust. And then it says that trust is a risk game. Leaders must be the first ones to end up. So that's a quote from James Kouzes and Barry Posner. They are the authors of one of the books. I believe they have written several books, but one of the iconic books that they have written is called The Leadership Challenge. And that book has been around for a long time, I believe over 30 years. So that's a quote from that book. It says, trust is a risk game. Leaders must be the first ones to end up. So how willing are you to share openly with others about when you have made a mistake? And especially as a leader, do you make mistakes? I'm hoping you do, because if you're not making mistakes, most likely you're playing it safe. But whenever you make a mistake, are you willing to share that openly with your team and to an extent discuss on how they can help you so that mistake doesn't happen? Now, it might be a mistake that you made directly, or a mistake that was made as a result of you not communicating well, or not giving clear directions, or not doing something that you didn't think was important. So what was the result when you have? So if you've ever shared openly with your team members, or at least accepted that you made a mistake, what happened? If that has ever happened to you, then what was the result when you have openly shared that aspect of making a mistake? So where do you need to enter up to build greater trust with your team? And again, that term of entering up is about stepping up to build that trust, is being intentional, is being objective, and having a goal to build trust with your team. Now, here are some statements that John Maxwell wrote down. He's the one who came up with this program, Developing the Leader Within You. And he said, I thought trust was a nice to have thing. Again, some people don't think trust is the most important thing. They might feel being productive is the most important thing, showing up on time, getting done with projects, hiring people, onboarding them, training them is the most important thing. Selling more is the most important thing. But building trust and having trust is not a nice to have. It's a must have for a leader. Again, going back to trust is the foundation of leadership. Your people should be able to trust you and trust your intentions. You should be able to trust them and trust their intentions, especially if they haven't given you a reason to doubt them. The next thing that John says is that I thought trust was up to others. I thought trust could only grow slowly. Those are two different statements. I thought trust was up to others, like you expect other people to build trust with you. And it happens. Sometimes leaders feel like they are high up there. They feel like it's not their job to be intentional, to exert the effort to build trust. But trust is a two-way traffic. And if the other person, in this case, your team or your colleagues, your fellow leaders, are not working hard to build that trust, I hope you're going to take it upon yourself to build that trust. Next, I thought trust could only grow slowly. And that's possible. It can take a while to grow trust, but it doesn't have to grow that slowly. In the business world, we've learned that people like to do business with those they know. People like to do business with those they know, those they like, and those they trust. And the trust factor doesn't have to take forever. You meet with someone, you shake hands, you start talking, or you have a new employee and you start talking and you realize this person has the qualities I'm looking for. And we have so many things in common with this person. Either we like sports, or we like being efficient, or we like X. And to an extent, when you sense they have integrity and they are people they keep their word, then you are likely to give them just a little bit of trust. Again, trust doesn't have to grow slowly. It can grow as fast as you make it to be, or at least as you allow yourself to be a part of the process of growing that trust. And then the last statement is, I thought a single mistake automatically destroyed trust. That's not true. Now, is it possible for you to put a big dent on the trust people have on you? Yes, that's possible, depending on how big the mistake is, especially if the mistake is leaning more towards betrayal. If any of your team members has ever shared confidential information with you and you're not supposed to share, and then somehow and carelessly you share that information, you betray that trust. If this could be something personal, could be something professionally related, so long as it's not putting the company at risk, then it's not your place to share confidential information, especially if someone has explicitly expressed you should not share that information. But not every mistake is going to destroy the trust that you have. And especially when you have the ability to go back and share with your team and say, I dropped the ball. I made a mistake. I'm sorry about this. Can we move on? How can we fix it? Help me to fix this. When you do that, then you are likely to build the trust back up. So if you've made a big mistake, it's not all lost. There's no single mistake really that's going to destroy all the trust that you've built. So much of leadership relies on good character, and that's in your workbook. So much of leadership relies on good character. Trust is created through it. Talent is protected by it. Internal peace is fostered by it. And I believe that's a powerful statement right there. Trusted is created by character. Talent, in this case, your people, are protected by it, even your own talent. And internal peace within you, within your team, within the individuals, is going to be fostered by good character. So how can you protect your character to ensure your leadership effectiveness? Again, when you build trust, which is built through having a good character, when you build that trust, how can you protect that character? How can you protect your trust so that you can increase effectiveness? What do you actively do to develop the trust of others? What is it you do to develop the trust of others? There are several things you can do. One of them is to keep your word. Whenever you say you're going to do something, just do it. The second thing is being accessible, being available, being there for your people, especially when they are going through tough times. It is essential for you to be available for them. So let's go to number 2, which is successful leaders embrace the 4 dimensions of character. Successful leaders embrace the 4 dimensions of character. Number 1 is authenticity. And the question is, how would you define authenticity? Now, the definition of authenticity has been evolving over the years, depending on where you are at. In this age, 2024, to some people, being authentic is being really open and being an open book and telling people everything you're thinking and what you're doing and what's going on in your life. That has its place, but from a leadership perspective, authenticity means something different. It's being the real you. It's being yourself. You don't pretend to be what you are not. We said, if you really want to build and sustain your character, you got to be a person of your word, a leader of your word. You need to be reliable. You need to be accessible. You need to be available. So I believe authenticity from a leadership perspective is being yourself as a person and as a leader. So how do you define authenticity in your own terms? When have you experienced brokenness? Brokenness is realizing that I don't have it all together. I don't have it all. I don't have all the knowledge and all the skills. I don't know everything. I don't understand everything. I have some weaknesses that I need help with. And that's a moment of brokenness, really understanding that you don't have it all together and asking for help sometimes from your team members, from your fellow leaders, from your upper management, and from your mentors and the people that care about you. So authenticity is one of the dimensions. Number 2 is self-management. A few weeks ago, I spoke at an event and I was asked to speak on self-leadership. Part of the stuff I shared with them was that self-management and self-leadership are all intertwined. When you talk about self-management, is being able to take care of the resources that you have, your time, your energy, your attitude, the things that really you can have control over. That's management. And self-leadership is getting yourself to do the thing that you said you're going to do, saying that I'm going to wake up, I'm going to be positive, I'm going to train my people, I'm going to stick with it, I'm not going to be whiny, I'm not going to complain. That self-management is to an extent getting yourself to do the thing you said you're going to do, even when you don't feel like doing it. So self-management is one of the dimensions of great leadership. And here's a statement. We set young leaders up for a fall if we encourage them to envision what they can do before they consider the kind of person they should be. That's from Ruth Haley Barton. It's a loaded statement right there. And in this case, talking about young leaders is you could be someone who is young by age, or could be someone who is young in leadership, like it's their first time to be a leader, or they have been a leader for a while, but they have never been trained. So they haven't grown, developed as a leader. Yes, we set them up for failure if we encourage them to envision what they could become and what they can do even before they understand themselves, before they consider the kind of person they should be. And should, again, is another interesting word. Should can only be determined by you. What are the shoulds for you? What do you feel you should do or you should become? Who do you want to become? And just to give you an insight, it's not easy, but it's easy when you know that you understand the formula and the process of self-discovery, understanding yourself, asking yourself questions. Who am I? What makes me tick? What drives me? What makes me happy? What helps me to build my career? What helps me to find the resource that my team members? What's the thing that if I didn't get paid, I would still do? It's a thing, by the way. Earlier today, I had a Zoom call with one of my executive coaching clients, and she was sharing with me how she is so sold into what she is doing. Just to give you a perspective, she is writing a book. The book is written, actually, she's just doing the final edits. And if all goes well, the book is going to be launched in December. And she is creating a new website and all marketing materials and all kinds of stuff. And as we were talking about the content that she's putting out there and the book, she told me that she had a conversation with someone earlier today. And as she was sharing her story and the passion that she has for the cause that she is in, working towards helping women executives to lead, and not just lead, but also take care of their health, to move from drained to driven, to exercise wellness-driven leadership. That's her theme. She told me as she was sharing that theme, and she got emotional. And she said she was shedding some tears because she's so passionate about that thing. By all means, I'm not saying you have to cry, but when you're sold into something, most of the times it's because you have self-awareness, what makes you tick, what you're passionate about. So again, this statement is so loaded because sometimes we encourage people, young leaders or otherwise, that you can become whatever you want to become. You can do whatever you want to do. The opportunities in this company are endless. The sky is the limit. And we tell them all this cool stuff, and somehow we neglect to help them discover who they are, or at least to figure out who they want to become, what they should do, where they want to go. So young leaders and relatively new employees and professionals need guidance in that aspect. So to keep grounded, I ask myself some questions. Now, this is from John Maxwell. Number one is consistency. Am I the same person no matter who I am with? And that's key. It's not easy to stay consistent, and especially from an authenticity perspective, from a self-expression perspective, from an interaction perspective, it can be tough, especially if you feel you are living in two worlds. You have your professional side, you have your home life, you have the business side. For me, then I have my family life. So our personal lives and our professional lives are so intertwined, it's almost impossible to separate them. Yesterday, I was interviewed on a podcast by a business coach and another guy who does marketing. And one of the things one of the hosts shared is our story on how we met. We met about 5-6 years ago. And he said that he walked into a building and there were probably about 150 people there. And he said, I saw you walk in and you looked like you owned the room. And he was very kind to say all that. But he said, what I saw that day is the same thing I see whenever I talk to you. He said, the person I saw 5 years ago is the same person I see today. High energy, optimistic, really curious. And he said all this cool stuff. And I can't take credit for that. What I know is that I wasn't that person 10 years ago. I wasn't that person 15 years ago. I've had to work on myself to know that if I really want to enjoy my life and become productive and be a good leader, I have to be more or less the same person at work and outside of work. Number two is choices. Do I make decisions that are best for others, even when another choice would benefit me? And this just speaks to, again, being selfless and thinking about other people. This is not an easy one because, again, we think about ourselves all the time, not an obsession, but That's how it is. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, wash your face, take a shower, drink your coffee, get in your car, go to work, do your job, come home. All those things about you, you have, if you really want to succeed as a leader, especially on a high level, you have to step outside of yourself. You have to intentionally plan on stepping outside of yourself so you can think about other people. So the question is, do you make decisions that are best for others, even when another choice would benefit you? The next one is credit. Am I quick to recognize others for their efforts and contributions to my success? It is a habit you have to develop as a leader to be comfortable and to be consistently able to give others credit or to share credit. If you happen to be somehow the one who made it happen, which I don't think you can do it single-handedly, you must have had help from other people, whether it's your assistant or your colleagues or your fellow managers, or even the resources that the company has given you. But let's say, for instance, you happen to be the person who made it happen. It's easy for you to go, it's all me, and take that credit, and people are going to give it to you and feel good. But as a leader, you should be able to share that credit. And better yet, you should be able to give that credit even before people ask for it. Because your team is watching, and you don't do it because they're watching, you do it because it's the right thing. So be quick to recognize others for their efforts and contributions to your success. Just a simple thank you, simple, genuine thank you does it. Now, if you have the resources to buy them something or reward them, you can do that, especially if it's allowed by your company. But even a simple thank you is going to be able to do it. So the third pillar is humility. And so the question is, how would you define humility? Again, definition for all these words have evolved over time. But from a leadership perspective, really humility is recognizing that you are highly skilled, highly gifted, highly talented, but still have the curiosity and be humble enough to ask for help and be willing to learn more and challenge what you know, because almost everything we do is based on a script that someone gave us. The way we walk, the way we talk, the way we lead is based on a book we read or a class we attended or a mentor we had. So it might be possible some aspects of what we know and practice is not that accurate. So being open to challenge your thinking and your way of doing things, to me, that's humility. Next is, how do you develop humility? There are different ways of developing humility, and I'm curious to know, according to you, how you do it, if you've been able to do that, or at least how do you envision doing to develop humility. But there are several things you can do. Like I said, one of them is to be curious. When you're curious, you can't help than to ask questions. You ask enough questions. But they tell me about that thing. How did you do that? I know I've done that for years, but I like the way you've done it. Can you explain to me how you've done that? In this case, you're talking to your team members. If you have another manager in a different department, go to them and ask them, how do you motivate your team? How do you encourage them? How do you increase employee engagement? I see that people in your meetings are usually engaged and active. How do you get them to be engaged at 7:30 in the morning? Asking enough questions really helps. I had an in-person meeting with someone who is an executive in a company, and we were talking about attitude. One of the questions was, who do you admire the most? And of course, he mentioned someone's name, and some of the things he shared was that this person is highly skilled, highly knowledgeable, but one of the things I really admire about them is that they are in charge of several locations, and they lead those locations, and the people that lead those locations with a lot of grace and power. He always has a smile on his face, and I'm just amazed how he does it. And then he said, this person, him and I, we get together once a quarter just to chat and talk, and I always enjoy those conversations. So you can imagine this particular junior leader that I was talking to, how much they're learning from the senior leader that they get to meet with every single quarter. Developing humility is going to come from being curious, asking questions, but again, having a clear self-awareness of who you are, your strengths and your weaknesses, and especially on your weakness side, being able to ask people to help you out. That's going to help. The fourth pillar is courage. So courage makes character possible. Again, we said character is a foundation for leadership, and it's from character that we get to build trust with our people. Courage makes character possible. And again, it all depends on how you see it. I'm not talking about you jumping from the top of a building or getting out there and fighting a lion or doing all kinds of risky stuff. And if you are into high adrenaline activities, that's okay. But when I think about courage, it's about making the decision even when it's scary, making the decision knowing that there's a possibility that decision is going to be the wrong decision. Being able to ask for forgiveness when you know there's a possibility that someone is going to look at you and assume that you're weak, is doing the thing that you're not sure how it's going to turn out. Close to 20 years ago, there's a little book I read, and I came across a quote, and it said, courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, but not the absence of fear. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, but not the absence of fear. And looking back, really, what that means, and I believe it's relevant even today, is that whenever you have courage, it doesn't mean that you don't have fear. You have the fear, you have the hesitation, you have the reservations, but you resist it and you make the decision. You resist it and you take action. And when you do it long enough, you master that fear. You get to understand the triggers. When you're afraid, how do you feel? How does your body react? How does your voice change? How does your approach change? Some people, whenever they're upset or they're under tension and under pressure, they lose it to an extent. Some people become loud. They start yelling. Some people cry. It all depends on how you do it. But when you face your fear, when you do it long enough, you master the process. And that's how people can say, oh, how come Isaac is always very bold and courageous? How come Josiah is very bold? How come John is very bold? How come Jackie is? So it's all about mastery of fear, but not the absence of fear. So how has adversity shaped your character? It all depends on how you look at adversity. Some people have pretty much high level of adversity that they have experienced. Others, it's just been like a mild experience. Again, yesterday at the podcast that I appeared, one of the hosts, a close friend of mine, really highly successful business coach, shared with us something that I didn't know. He said that he was born in the Philippines. He moved to California when he was 3. He grew up in a really impoverished area, basically in the projects. They didn't have tons of money. And he said one of the dreams he had was one day when he gets money, he would be able to go to Costco. And for those who live in the US, they know what Costco is. Costco is a huge store chain where you can go and buy stuff in bulk. And he said he saw people and other families going to Costco and buying whatever they needed. To him and his family, they used to buy just one little thing. That's all they could afford. And then he said he had I think an auntie or grandma who used to live in France. And this lady, whenever she came to visit, she would give them money, and that's the time she would do shopping for them, bulk shopping. And that's when they would have almost everything they need for a limited time, maybe a week or two, and then they'll be back to the poverty-stricken way of living. Now, that's adversity from a resource perspective. In your case, adversity might be something different. Maybe you've struggled with self-confidence. That's adversity. Maybe you've struggled with not believing in yourself. Maybe you right now as a leader, you've struggled to grow your team. Maybe you've struggled to retain them, but you hire them, and then as soon as they come in, probably within a week or two, they quit, or within a year, they quit. And you go back to the same cycle of hiring and training and developing, and it never ends. And you're like, okay, am I even cut for this? That's adversity as well. But the question is, how do you respond to adversity? So I'm just going to share with you my perspective. It doesn't matter whether it's a resource-oriented adversity or it's a people-oriented adversity or personal in terms of low self-esteem or low self-confidence, not believing in yourself. It doesn't matter how you became that person, whether it's your background or what people said. But my perspective is adversity doesn't stay. It's not permanent. It comes and it goes. And it's something that you can overcome. It's something that you can learn how to deal with. Just to make it relevant from a leadership perspective, if you have a team that's not solid, or you have some team members that drive you nuts because they're just not doing their job, and some people that decide not to do their job on purpose, it happens, then you need to develop the skill to influence them. In this case, your leadership skills. You need to master communication, and communication is about passing that message from your mind to their minds and getting them to get connected to the vision and the goal and the dream and the tasks and the projects and the things that you're trying to do. So you master your communication, you master your influence, you master a way to motivate them, master how to have good, candid conversations with grace and being firm and being professional. We like to call them crucial conversations, and sometimes people call them difficult conversations. They don't have to be difficult. So mastering all those skills, you becoming a master at those skills is going to help you big time. And then number two, you got to make a decision that no matter what, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to keep on building my team. I'm going to bring people in, train them, develop them. Whoever is able to stay, they will stay. Whoever wants to leave, they can leave by all means. Make sure you follow the right channel that your company has stipulated. And you keep on building that team, because if you do it long enough, it's going to happen. That's a guarantee. If you do it long enough, it's going to happen. And especially when you allow yourself to be helped by other people. So ask for help and make sure, again, you are specific on what you want and what you are looking for. All right. So those are the 4 dimensions: authenticity, self-management, humility, and courage. Character value statement number 3 says character makes you bigger on the inside than on the outside. Because when you're bigger on the inside, you're going to appear bigger on the outside. But if you're just depending on external validation or external accolades or being praised, if you're too dependent on your team to do stuff for you, and not just the technical stuff, but them praising you and telling you're a good leader, or expecting your bosses and your executives and senior management to always pump you up, then at some point you're going to collapse because you don't have enough strength inside. So you need to build that character. It's an inside job. Make yourself bigger on the inside by developing your character, so that, yes, you're still going to get the accolades from outside, but you don't have to depend on them. So character makes you bigger on the inside than on the outside. And actually, that's it about that character value statement. So let's get to the application: developing the person of character within you. And again, the title of this lesson is The Foundation of Leadership is Character. So embracing good values. What are your non-negotiables when it comes to values, when it comes to your character, when it comes to your attitude? What are your non-negotiables? What are some of the things that you don't waver from, and especially when you are dealing with your team? Now, it's going to happen, if it hasn't happened yet, that people are going to look at things differently from you. They are going to sometimes try to cut corners when you are dealing with clients just to get to the result faster. You might have some colleagues in your company or even outside of your company that don't have the character you believe people should have. So is that a non-negotiable for you? So only you can answer that question. Then number 2, what lines will you refuse to cross? For me, the line I refuse to cross very consistently, and it's a decision I made and it's been taking shape for years, is not valuing people. I care about people. I value people. I believe everyone has the potential to grow, has the ability to become a better person, a better leader, a better human being. They have a potential to have more, to do more, to become more. And I choose not to give up on anyone. So anything that remotely looks like giving up on people or demeaning them or looking down upon them, that's a no for me. I don't cross that line. It doesn't matter how much money I'm getting paid or how much I like someone. When they either cross that line or tend to cross it, then we're going to have a talk. Again, since it's a decision I made a long time ago, it's easy for me to have that conversation. And it reminds me of a lesson and a statement really that I learned from one of my mentors. He says that as leaders, we got to make decisions and then we manage those decisions every single day. There are some things you need to make a decision once and for all. You make it once and then you manage that decision. For me, I made a decision. I'll always value people. I'll always add value to them. I'll never demean them. I'll always believe in them. And so all I need to do is to manage that decision, because I'm likely to waver from that decision too, depending on what's going on. If I'm under pressure, or especially within my company and things are not working, and I'm likely to get a little tense with people, and that doesn't portray what I believe that I should need to care about people. So sometimes we just have to be aware of ourselves, and we got to manage that. But there are some lines you want to make sure nobody crosses. Next is, what will you stand for? What is it that you stand for? Only you can answer that question. I stand for potential. I stand for believe in people. I stand for results. I stand for high performance. That's just me. And I believe every company and every leader should care about that as well. The question is, has anything changed? And again, these are threads we are following for you and me as leaders. What has changed? Yes, so many things have changed. I've grown. I've become a better leader. I've become a better professional. I've learned how to prioritize, to allow to go into my calendar and what should not go into my calendar. I've learned to slow down and take care of myself and my health. I've matured to become a more patient person. So yes, many things have changed. I'm curious what has changed in your case. Is there anything you would add? And in this case, what can you add in terms of your character? In my case, I can add so many things. I still have long ways to go. I'm growing as a person. The more I talk to people, my clients or otherwise, my friends, my colleagues, other business owners, my wife and the kids, the more I learn that I don't know much. Yes, there's so much that needs to be added into my life. Anything you would remove? Yes, tons of things that I would remove and I've been removing from my calendar and my schedule and my way of doing things is not paying attention to the things that don't add value to me. Earlier today, I had a conversation with a CEO. She runs an accounting firm. And we talked about saying yes and saying no. And what I shared with her is something I watched this morning. It's an interview that was being done by two very highly successful leaders on YouTube. And one of them was asked how they maintain their sanity and how they protect their time. And the guy said that whenever you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. Whenever you say yes to meet with someone, you are saying no to spending time with yourself. Every time you say yes to doing a project, especially for free for someone, then you're saying no to your own goals and dreams. Every time you say no to your team member who wants to have a 10-minute conversation with you, then you are saying yes to inefficiency. So it's all about prioritizing and being able to know what's the most valuable thing for you and your team. So you got to say a lot of no. And no is a complete sentence. That's from another mentor of mine. She says that you don't have to explain your no, and you don't necessarily have to explain. You don't have to explain your yes. Yes is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. Yeah, it's all about removing stuff and then adding the things that add value to you. So practicing self-leadership. What must you do to put yourself in better positions to manage your decisions and follow through with them? That's a question for you. What are you going to do? Then valuing people, what can you do every day to express value to another person? In this case, if you want to be a little bit biased, what can you do every day to express value to your team members? I believe it's one of the most important lessons, which is the foundation of leadership is character. Get out there, practice the character that you built. And if you're still building yourself, be patient, but keep on doing it. Like we said, it's likely to be a little scary because there's an aspect of change. But again, you got to have courage. And we said courage is not absence of fear, it's a resistance of fear and mastery of that fear until it becomes second nature. And that's how you get to master that. So get out there, make it happen, help your team, help your company, help your industry, and all the best in your leadership journey. As always, feel free to reach out to us if you need help. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next lesson.